one definitely marking the correlation of ideas, or the relation between. It parallels the coming of mind, both in time and function. We have hearing, touch or feeling, and then sight. In connection with the correspondence, it is to be noted that sight came in with the third root race in this round, and that the third race saw also the coming in of mind. The self and the not-self were immediately correlated and coordinated. Their close partnership became an accomplished fact, and evolution hastened forward with renewed impetus. These three major senses, if I might so describe them, are very definitely allied, each with one of the three logoi. Hearing, the recognition of the fourfold word, the activity of matter, the third logos. Touch, the recognition of the sevenfold form builder, the gathering together of forms, their approximation and interrelation, the second logos. The law of attraction between the self and the not-self begins to work. Sight, the recognition of totality, the synthesis of all, the realization of the one in many, the first logos. The law of synthesis, operating between all forms which the self occupies, and the recognition of the essential unity of all manifestation by the means of sight. As regards taste and smell, we might call them minor senses, for they are closely allied to the important sense of touch. They are practically subsidiary to that sense. The second sense, and its connection with the second solar system, should be carefully pondered over. It is predominantly the sense most closely connected with the second logos. This conveys a hint of much value if duly considered. It is of value to study the extensions of physical plane touch on other planes, and to see whither we are led. It is the faculty which enables us to arrive at the essence by due recognition of the veiling sheath. It enables the thinker who fully utilizes it to put himself en rapport with the essence of all selves at all stages, and thereby to aid in the due evolution of the sheath and actively to serve. A Lord of compassion is one who, by means of touch, feels with, fully comprehends, and realizes the manner in which to heal and correct the inadequacies of the not-self and thus actively to serve the plan of evolution. We should study likewise in this connection the value of touch as demonstrated by the healers of the race, those on the Bodhisattva line, 85-83, and the effect of the law of attraction and repulsion as thus manipulated by them. Students of etymology will have noted that the origin of the word touch is somewhat obscure, but probably means to draw with quick motion. Herein lies the whole secret of this objective solar system, and herein will be demonstrated the quickening of vibration by means of touch. Inertia, mobility, rhythm, are the qualities manifested by the not-self. Rhythm, balance, and stable vibration are achieved by means of this very faculty of touch, or feeling. Let me illustrate briefly so as to make the problem somewhat clearer. What results in meditation? By dint of strenuous effort and due attention to rules laid down, the aspirant succeeds in touching matter of a quality rarer than is his usual custom. He contacts his causal body, in time he contacts the matter of the Buddhic plane. By means of this touch his own vibration is temporarily and briefly quickened. Fundamentally we are brought back to the subject that we deal with in this treatise. The latent fire of matter attracts to itself that fire, latent in other forms. They touch, and recognition and awareness ensues. The fire of menace burns continuously, and is fed by that which is attracted and repulsed. When the two blend, the stimulation is greatly increased and the ability to touch intensified. The law of attraction persists in its work until another fire is attracted and touched, and the threefold merging is completed. Forget not in this connection the mystery of the rod of initiation. 86-84. Later, when we consider the subject of the centers and initiation, it must be remembered that we are definitely studying one aspect of this mysterious faculty of touch, the faculty of the second logos, wielding the law of attraction. Let us now finish what may be imparted on the remaining three senses: sight, taste, smell, and then briefly sum up their relationship to the centers, and their mutual action and interaction. That will then leave two more points to be dealt with in this first division of the treatise on cosmic fire, and a summing up. We shall then be in a position to take up that portion of the treatise that deals with the fire of Minas and with the development of the Minasoputras, 87 Minasoputras. These are the sons of mind, the individual principle in man, the ego, the solar angel, in his own body on the abstract levels of the mental plane. 85 both in their totality and likewise individually. This topic is of the most imperative importance as it deals entirely with man, the ego, the thinker, and shows the cosmic blending of the fires of matter and of mind, and their utilization by the indwelling flame. See sight. This sense, as said before, is the paramount correlating sense of the solar system. Under the law of economy, man hears. Sound permeates matter, and is the basis of its subsequent heterogeneity. Under the law of attraction, man touches and makes contact with that which is brought to his attention through sound waves of activity. This leads to a condition of mutual repulsion and attraction between the one who apprehends and that which is apprehended. Having apprehended and then contacted, his eyes are opened and he recognizes his place in the whole order under the law of synthesis. Hearing, unity, touch, duality, sight, triplicity. In these three senses the present is summed up for us. The work of evolution is to recognize, utilize, coordinate, and dominate the whole till the self, by means of these three, becomes actively aware of every form, of every vibration, and of every pulsation of the not-self. Then, through the arranging power of mind, the objective of the self will be to find the truth, or that center in the circle of manifestation which is, for the self, the center of equilibrium, and the one point where the coordination is perfected. Then the self can dissociate itself from every veil, every contact, and every sense. This leads in every manifestation to three types of separation. Involution. The separation of matter, or the one becoming the many. The senses are developed, and the apparatus is perfected by the self for the utilization of matter. This is under the law of economy. Evolution up to the time of the probationary path. The merging of spirit and matter, and the utilization of the senses in the progressing identification of the self with all forms from the lowest to those relatively refined. This is under the law of attraction. Evolution on the path. Again, the separation of spirit from matter, its identification with the one, and the ultimate rejection of form. The senses then are synthesized into acquired faculty, and the self has no further use for the not-self. It blends with the all-self. This is under the law of synthesis. If this is born in mind, it leads to a realization that the separation of the spirit from the material vehicle involves two aspects of the one great all. Herein is seen the work of the Creator, the Preserver, and the Destroyer. In the final perfection of this third sense of sight, the term used is the wholly inadequate one of realization. Let the student study carefully the lowest and highest demonstration of the senses as laid down in the tabulation earlier imparted, and note the occult significance of the expressions used in the summation. Hearing, beatitude. This is realized through the not-self. Touch, service. The summation of the work of the self for the not-self. Sight, realization. Recognition of the triplicity needed in manifestation, or the reflex action of the self and the not-self. Taste, perfection. Evolution completed through the utilization of the not-self and its realized adequacy. Smell, perfected knowledge. The principle of Minas in its discriminating activity, perfecting the interrelation between the self and the not-self. This all concerns the perfected, realized personality. In all these perfections is seen the awareness of the self, and the graded process of identification, utilization, manipulation and final rejection of the not-self by that self who is now consciously aware. He hears the note of nature and that of his monad. He recognizes their identity, utilizes their vibration, and passes rapidly through the three stages of creator, preserver and destroyer. He touches or feels the vibration of the form or not-self in all its various grades, recognizes his identity in time and space, and for purposes of existence or being, and by means of the three laws of economy, attraction and synthesis utilizes, blends and eventually dissociates himself. He sees the threefold evolutionary process, and by means of the development of the inner vision, sees within the heart of the system macrocosmic and microcosmic, the one self in many forms, and finally identifies himself with that one self by the conscious rejection of the not-self after its complete subjugation and utilization. Detasting. He tastes then finally and discriminates, for taste is the great sense that begins to hold sway during the discriminating process that takes place when the illusory nature of matter is in process of realization. Discrimination is the educatory process to which the self subjects itself in the process of developing intuition, that faculty whereby the self recognizes its own essence in and under all forms. Discrimination concerns the duality of nature, the self and the not-self, and is the means of their differentiation in the process of abstraction. The intuition concerns unity, and is the capacity of the self to contact other selves, and is not a faculty whereby the not-self is contacted. Hence, its rarity these days owing to the intense individualization of the ego, and its identification with the form necessary identification at this particular time. As the sense of taste on the higher planes is developed, it leads one to ever finer distinctions, till one is finally led through the form, right to the heart of one's nature. E-smelling is the faculty of keen perception that eventually brings a man back to the source from whence he came, the archetypal plane, the plane where his true home is to be found. A perception of difference has been cultivated that has caused a divine discontent within the heart of the pilgrim in the far country. The prodigal son draws comparisons. He has developed the other four senses, and he utilizes them. Now comes in the faculty of vibratory recognition of the home vibration, if it might be so expressed. It is the spiritual counterpart of that sense which in the animal, the pigeon and other birds, leads them back unerringly to the familiar spot from whence they originally came. It is the apprehension of the vibration of the self, and a swift return by means of that instinct to the originating source. The consideration of this subject awakens the realization of the vastness of the region of thought concerned, the region of the whole evolutionary development of the human being. Yet all that is possible here, as elsewhere, is to indicate lines of thought for careful pondering, and to emphasize certain ideas which may serve as the foundation thoughts for the future mental activity of the immediate generation. The following facts must also be borne in mind when considering the matter. A. That the senses have been dealt with in this division of our treatise on cosmic fire, because they concern the material form. Strictly speaking, the five senses